On 10th of March 2017, the Securities and Exchange Commission denied the Winklevoss brothers an official exchange-traded fund that will track the price of Bitcoin. At the Dot Finance Symposium here in Kigali, CNBC Africa's Arnold Segawa spoke to Jon Matonis, who was the founding director of Bitcoin Foundation, and began by asking him whether the Securities Exchange Commission was intimidated by a cryptocurrency it could not steer. Take a look.
You're right in saying that. I think that they were attempting to regulate an ETF retail-based product and what frightened them was not having visibility into the spot exchange market or understanding the exchanges for that commodity. Typically with an ETF product, they would see the exchanges and they would see the volume within their country for an ETF exchange. Now that's a result of the U.S. not making themselves an attractive enough jurisdiction for Bitcoin exchanges, so they don't see enough of the Bitcoin volume. But I don't think that that's a worry for the rest of the world. It's definitely sad for U.S. citizens, but there are Bitcoin ETFs already in other parts of the world, especially in Europe.
Right. Of course, this is in regard to the Winklevoss, their proposition, the twins, to have that ETF that tracks the price of Bitcoin. But if at all the volumes are not there in the States, would that necessarily mean that that ETF would not be, it wouldn't be justifiable, profitable, or in any way have the SEC actually have it run on the States? I
think it will eventually be approved, but I think before that approval, you will see more exchange volume in the United States.
Right. Let's talk about Bitcoin in the news. Just earlier on, less than 24 hours ago, the Bank of India making it very clear that people should not be actually buying Bitcoin. On the flip side, people are just going haywire, getting as much Bitcoin as they can. Whatever bad publicity comes your way, well, as Bitcoin, it tends to actually just rally on you on the flip side.
Well, right. That's a part of. There's no such thing as bad publicity. You would definitely rather that they talk about you than not talk about you. But I have not met a central banker that has not discouraged the use of Bitcoin. Their statements are usually presented as warnings, where they say you can't trust any currencies that aren't issued by the central bank. Well, of course you would expect them to say that.
Again, central banks here on the African continent. Do you get the sense that maybe Bitcoin will not get the prominence that we have seen in other parts of the world because of a relatively low financial literacy?
No, I don't. I take issue with that because I think the greatest opportunities are on this continent. And I don't necessarily think that it deals with the financial literacy. I think it probably deals most with the penetration of Bitcoin wallets and the penetration of local Bitcoin exchanges. If you look at a map of global Bitcoin nodes, Africa is terribly underrepresented. There's no reason for that. We can just have as many nodes in Africa as we have in other parts of the world. Once that starts to happen, and once we start seeing the penetration of mobile wallets within the continent, I think the benefits will be very clear, and you will see a situation of actually starting to leapfrog other technologies, especially leapfrogging other mobile payment technologies.
Something that's very interesting that you did mention earlier on was Bitcoin being able to run on USSD. Now, this is just the SMSs that we know here on this side of the world. Why do I bring that up? It's because, well, feature phones still constitute close to 65% of all the mobile phones on the continent. Is this something that we can actually leverage? Because smartphone technology and smartphones is still relatively lower.
It wouldn't be very elegant, but it is possible. There are several companies that are set up to deal with SMS-based Bitcoin transactions. You get much more capability and functionality, though, with a smartphone and a smartphone-based wallet. So I would look at it as a precursor or as an on-ramp, to future Bitcoin applications. Bitcoin can be purchased for purposes of storing and saving if you don't trust the value of your government's currency, or it can be purchased for reasons related to global payments. Once a country connects to Bitcoin through either a mobile wallet or a local exchange, they are essentially plugging into a new global financial network where they have the ability to purchase things that they didn't have the ability to purchase before.
Right. Sunday, we did see the hack. Someone, my earlier guest, describes it as the hack of the century. Over 200,000 computers going offline. We know what happened. And fast forward to today, it turns out that many people out there are buying Bitcoin to the fullest in a bid to actually have a sort of collateral. Is this what it has come down to, as they are expecting another, well, hack?
Well, yeah, ransomware will continue to proliferate until people are more aware of their backups and their security procedures for preventing that. I don't necessarily see it as a fault of Bitcoin. You know, you could take the cynical side would be that it's a compliment to be chosen
as collateral,
as a currency that they find, you know, is easy for people to acquire, has value, and has all the attributes of a digital currency that they want. In fact, if I was with another crypto coin, I would be embarrassed that the ransomware hackers weren't choosing that coin. If you're blaming Bitcoin for the ransomware attacks, it's like blaming the steam engine for train robberies.
Right. That's, okay. Finally, I have to ask you about a very interesting comment that you did make on your presentation, the role of Bitcoin, well, for the future, maybe midterm, in mobile payments. Now, this was very interesting at your presentation. Could you just walk me through that?
Yeah, definitely. When I talk a lot about mobile payments, and it comes up a lot in conference settings. What usually inhibits the rollout of mobile payment systems are three constituencies that are all trying to get their slice of the pie. You have the mobile operators, you have the regulators, you have the large money center banks. And for many mobile payment systems, these tend to be barriers to overcome. They tend to slow down or even derail mobile payment projects. But the beauty of Bitcoin with mobile payments is that it's permissionless. So you can roll it out today. What you have in your pocket now with a mobile smartphone and with a Bitcoin wallet, you have a mobile payment system. And you don't have a mobile payment system that needs to go through layers of approval. Essentially, you can operate as a merchant and you can operate as a consumer. You can both receive payments and you can send payments. So it's almost like having a full POS system in your pocket.